What is up, guys? We're going to be doing the best big screen phone, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first phone on the list is the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. This is a 6.8 inch phone. It has a massive resolution of 1440 by 3040, and it's just a beautiful phone. 498 for the PPI. This is the biggest phone on the list. It's an AMOLED display, of course. And let's talk about the hardware with this guy, because as you can see, very slim bezels. You got the little punch hole, and you also have a glass and aluminum design, which is really nice, and it is IP68 water resistant. It's just a beast of a phone. Of course, you have the latest version of Android that's going to come to it eventually, the Snapdragon 855, no 855 plus. You have the Adreno 640. So you also have the micro SD support up to 1 terabyte, along with 256 gigabytes of storage with 12 gigs of RAM. So that is just crazy. So you do have a triple camera setup, a 12 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide, along with a 10 megapixel selfie camera. And this takes some amazing photos from what I've seen. I was very impressed. This phone is going to cost you a lot of money, like $1,000 plus, but you do have those stereo speakers on here, so it's a very nice premium phone. Of course, USB Type-C. You got the fingerprint scanner under the display. You also have a fast charging up to 15 watts, and you can actually use this as a power bank for reverse wireless charging at 9 watts. So how crazy is that? So this is just a beast of a phone. Next is the OnePlus 7 Pro. So this is my daily driver that I actually use, and I love this phone. It's a pretty big phone at 6.67 inches, so pretty much a 6.7 inch phone. It is pretty big. It's got nice slim bezels, no notch. It's got the pop-up camera, and it's got a 1440p display. It is 90 hertz, which is really awesome. It makes the phone extremely smooth. They call it the fluid AMOLED display. It is 516 for the PPI. It's just a beautiful display, one of the best that you can get. You do have Android 10 on this guy as well. OnePlus is really good with getting updates and security updates very fast for their phone, so I really love that. You have the Snapdragon 855 along with the Adreno 640 GPU. Now you don't have any SD support, which is the only thing this phone is kind of missing. You do have 128 gigabytes of storage though, with 6 gigabytes of RAM for the base model. Now the cameras on here are pretty good. They're not as good as the iPhone 11 or even the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, but they are pretty good, and if you put Gcam on it, you will be able to get some really good photos. But you have a 48 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. And you also have that pop-up selfie camera, which looks really cool, works very nice at 16 megapixels. So you do have stereo speakers with this guy, which is really nice. No 3.5 millimeter jack, and you also have NFC and USB Type-C. And of course you have that fingerprint scanner, which is actually the fastest fingerprint scanner that I've seen from anybody. Everyone said it's the fastest. It's the fastest one that I've tested. It's really amazing. 4,000 milliamp battery, and of course you have the 30-watt warp charge. This phone is missing wireless charging, so do note that, but the warp charge is pretty fast, so you know, that's kind of the trade-off, I guess. So next is the Samsung Galaxy A20s. I wanted to throw in kind of a budget phone, coming in at around 178 bucks, 200 bucks. So this is a really nice phone, 6.5 inch display. It is a 720p display, but it's very nice. It's an IPS display, gives off great colors. The pixel density is 264, so I didn't have any problems with the display on here. And like I said, you really don't see a display size like this on these $200 phones unless it's like a plus, you know, model. So I was really impressed with that. You have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 450, and you also have the Adreno 506. I was able to game no problem. You know, it's got that 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, so the phone was pretty fast from my experience. You also have micro SD support up to 1 terabyte, along with a triple camera setup, which for the price was actually pretty decent. You have a 13 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor, and a 8 megapixel selfie camera, and the photos were pretty satisfying. They took some really nice clear photos. You didn't get a lot of noise. In good lighting, you'll get some good pictures. You do have a 3.5 millimeter jack on here, as well as USB Type-C, and the fingerprint scanner is on the back. You also have that 4000 milliamp battery with fast charging up to 15 watts. Next is the ROG Phone 2. So this has a 6.59 inch display, and it's a pretty nice phone. It's like one of the highest spec phones you can get. You can find it online for around 600 bucks. I will put the link in the description, but it has an AMOLED display. It's got a 1080 by 2340, 391 for the PPI. So 1080p, you actually have 120 hertz display as well with 240 hertz touch sensing. So this is a really good phone if you're really into mobile gaming and stuff like that. It does have a back glass and aluminum frame, which is very nice. So very premium phone. You do have Android 9 with ROG UI on top. You have the Snapdragon 855 Plus, which is nice, in the Adreno 640 GPU. You don't have any expandable storage, but for the base model you get 128 gigabytes of storage with 8 gigs of RAM. You also get a 48 megapixel wide and a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and you have a 24 megapixel selfie camera. From what I've seen, the cameras are pretty decent, but you're not really getting this phone for taking pictures. You're really getting this phone for the gaming and the high refresh rate display. You also have 2 stereo speakers. They are dedicated amplifiers, so very nice. And this phone actually is one of the flagships that keep the 3.5 millimeter jack, which I love. So in addition, you have USB Type-C, of course, and you have a very large 6000 milliamp battery. So it's going to be really hard to kill this phone if you're not like gaming hard on it. If you're using this phone just as a casual, phone, then you will get some excellent battery life with this guy. And of course, you've got the 30-watt fast charging along with the power bank reverse charging at 10 watts. So that is pretty nice. So this phone is just a beast for the price. Last thing listed is the Apple iPhone 11 Pro Max. This is a pretty big phone. It's got a 6.5 inch display, and it is 1242 by 2688. So very nice display, even though it's got that notch, which I really hate. But some people don't care about it. So if that doesn't bother you, then this would be a really good phone if you're into iPhones. It is going to cost you a lot, $1,000 plus. So beware of that. So it is a front and back glass design. It's also IP68, and you also have the Apple Pay. They're called the display the Super Retina, but it is an OLED display, which is very nice. There's no high refresh rate on here, which I was kind of disappointed with, but it is, like I said, a nice display. You do have the latest iOS, of course. The Apple A13 Bionic chip is just blazing fast. It's extremely fast. I got to test that out with the iPhone 11, and it is really fast, guys. You do have no expandable storage as always with iPhones. And the thing that trips me out about this is the base model for this phone has 64 gigabytes and 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is pretty crazy. If you're gonna pay like $1,000 plus, you should at least get 128 gigs, and then the next should be 256. So I don't know what they're doing there, but the cameras are some of the best you can get on a phone, up there with the Pixel. You get a 12 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide, along with a 12 megapixel front facing camera. So the cameras on here are what you're going to expect from the iPhone. It's going to be excellent. iPhones have some of the best video as well, so if you're into vlogging, you might want to consider picking this up. Also, you have stereo speakers, no headphone jack, of course. You do have NFC, you have wireless charging, and you have fast charging up to 18 watts, and you get some pretty good battery life with the iPhone. From what I've heard, it lasts really well. It looks like about like a day and a half from what I've seen, so that's really nice. So this is just an awesome phone if you're into the Apple ecosystem, and I will catch you guys in the next video.